Welcome back to the deep dive. Really excited to get into some pretty fascinating stuff today.
Yeah, me too. We're digging back into James Clear's Atomic Habits. Always good material there.
Absolutely. So our mission today is basically to unpack chapters 8, 9, and 10. We're looking at how to make good habits, appealing, and bad habits, the opposite.
It's kind of a shortcut to understanding the psychology, right?
Right.
Why we do what we do.
Exactly. So let's dive in. Chapter 8, how to make a habit irresistible. This is the second law of behavior change. Make it attractive.
Right. And Clear starts with this concept of supernormal stimuli. He talks about Nico Tinbergen's work.
Oh yeah, the herring gull chicks. Pecking at the fake red dots more than the real ones.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
the geese trying to roll like volleyballs back to their nests instead of their own eggs.
It's kind of funny, but it really shows how exaggerated cues can trigger a stronger response. Our brains are wired for that, it seems.
And that's a connection to today, isn't it? Think about junk food, the crazy levels of salt, sugar, fat.
Or social media notifications. Those little red bubbles, the likes.
Definitely. Online content, ads. They're all engineered to be hyper-palatable, super normal versions of things we're naturally drawn to. They exploit those evolved instincts.
It makes you realize how much our environment is like dialing up our desires. Which brings us to dopamine.
Dopamine. Yeah, the famous 1954 experiment, Olds and Milner, with the rats.
Where blocking dopamine just stopped them wanting anything, even food, water.
Yeah.
It basically shut down their desire.
It's a stark illustration. Dopamine isn't just about feeling good after you do something. It's the engine of wanting to do it in the first place.
And it's released in anticipation too, right? That's key.
Totally key. He mentions gamblers getting that dopamine rush before the bet pays off, or drug users anticipating the high.
It's the wanting, not necessarily the liking. That distinction feels really important.
It is, and apparently the brain circuitry for wanting is much bigger than for liking. That anticipation is a huge driver of our behavior.
So, okay, how do we use this? That's where temptation bundling comes in.
Yes, linking something you want to do with something you need to do.
Like the guy, Ronan Byrne, who hacked his exercise bike so it would only play Netflix if he was cycling at a certain speed. Genius.
That's such a perfect example. Make the unpleasant thing, exercise, the gateway to the pleasant thing, Netflix.
Or like ABC with their Thursday night TV lineup, TGIT. They basically encourage people to associate watching their shows with enjoying wine and popcorn.
Right, bundling the desired activity watching shows with indulgences.
So for us, maybe it's like you only let yourself listen to your favorite podcast while you're doing chores.
Or you save that trashy magazine reading only for the gym.
Or getting a pedicure while you finally tackle that email backlog. You're pairing the reward directly with the task.
And this ties into Premack's principle. Basically, use a high probability behavior, something you like doing, to reinforce a low probability one, something you tend to put off.
Clear gives that formula, right? Habit stacking plus temptation bundling.
Yeah. Like,
Okay.
after I current habit, I will habit I need. After I habit I need, I will habit I want.
So after my morning coffee, I will do 10 burpees. After my 10 burpees, I will check Facebook. Something like that.
Exactly, layering the motivation.
Okay, so chapter 8 takeaways. Attractiveness matters hugely. Dopamine drives the wanting through anticipation, and temptation bundling is a really practical tool. Makes sense.
Definitely. Ready for chapter 9, the social influence.
Let's do it. Chapter 9. The role of family and friends in shaping your habits. This feels intuitive, but the examples are powerful.
Yeah, the influence of culture and social norms is massive. He tells that story about Laszlo Polgar.
The father who decided to raise chess grandmasters
Yeah.
and basically succeeded with all 3 daughters.
Right, Susan, Sophia, and Judith. It shows how creating a culture where something like intense chess practice is just normal, even celebrated, makes it incredibly attractive.
And the key part is they seem to genuinely enjoy it, despite how intense it sounds from the outside.
It taps into that fundamental human drive to fit in, to belong, to earn respect. We're herd animals, evolutionarily speaking.
So we imitate people. Cleary says we follow these invisible rules of our groups.
And he breaks it down into 3 groups we tend to copy: the close, the many, and the powerful.
Okay, the close family friends. That seems obvious. You pick up habits from your parents, your partner, your close colleagues.
And the research he cites is quite striking. Like the study showing your odds of becoming obese increase significantly if a close friend becomes obese.
Wow. But it works positively too, right? Like couples where if one person loses weight, the other often does too.
Exactly. Or the MIT example, being surrounded by high achievers can pull you up. Even the correlation with a best friend's IQ.
It really makes you think about who you spend your time with. The advice to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, find your tribe, basically. Like nerd fitness, creating a community where being into fitness and nerdy stuff is the shared norm. It makes it less of a lonely battle.
Transforms it into a shared identity. Okay, what about the many? The tribe, the crowd?
Oh, this is where the Solomon Asch experiments come in. The classic conformity studies.
The lines on the cards, where people would clearly see one line was shorter but say it was longer just because everyone else in the group did.
Yep. It's wild. Nearly 75% of participants went along with the obviously wrong group answer at least once.
That shows the incredible pull of the group. We just want to fit in, even if it means ignoring our own eyes.
Or at least we doubt ourselves when the group disagrees. We look to the majority for cues on how to act, especially when we're uncertain. The desire for acceptance is incredibly strong.
Okay, and the last one. The powerful. People with status.
We're drawn to success, aren't we? Well, we naturally tend to copy the behaviors of people who seem successful, admired, high status.
Because we want that approval, that respect that comes with status.
Nothing.
So we emulate their habits, hoping some of it rubs off.
And we avoid behaviors that might lower our status. This also connects back to the Polgar sisters. Part of what kept them going was likely the praise and status they gained within the chess world.
Right. So Chapter 9 is all about how our social world shapes what we find attractive. We want to fit in. So we imitate the clothes, the many, and the powerful. Powerful stuff.
It really is. So that leads us nicely into Chapter 10, which is about tackling the bad habits by basically doing the opposite.
Flipping the second law, make it unattractive.
Exactly. You mentioned your Istanbul story, and Clear talks about Mike, the smoker who quit using Alan Carr's book.
Yeah, Carr's whole method seems to be about systematically reframing every single cue associated with smoking, making it seem less appealing, even disgusting.
It's about changing the meaning associated with the habit, which links to Clear's point about surface cravings versus underlying motives.
Hey, like you think you want tacos.
But the real underlying motive might be getting energy or maybe even just relieving boredom or stress.
Clear lists those core motives. Conserve energy, get food, water, find love, connect, win social acceptance, reduce uncertainty, gain status.
And so many modern habits or products latch onto those.
Facebook for connection, Google for reducing uncertainty, dating apps for finding love.
They're just modern solutions to ancient underlying needs. And the point is, your current habit isn't the only way to meet that need. Bad habits are just learned methods, often not very good ones.
It all comes down to associations and predictions, doesn't it? Cue, prediction, response.
Yes, and crucially, our response depends on our interpretation of the cue, not just the cue itself.
Like the cigarette example. One person sees it and feels relief, another feels disgust. Same object, totally different prediction and feeling.
So cravings are basically that feeling that something's off, a desire to change your internal state, the gap between where you are and where you want to be.
And our feelings guide that, telling us whether to stick with what we're doing or change course.
Habits are essentially attempts to address those underlying motives. Good or bad, they create a loop, but we can reprogram that loop.
How? By changing our predictions. Reframing.
Exactly, that slight mindset shift. He talks about reframing have to into get to.
Yeah, that's a good one. Instead of I have to go to work, it's I get to earn a living and use my skills.
Or I have to make sales calls becomes I get to practice my pitch and connect with potential clients.
It changes the feeling associated with it. The story of the guy in the wheelchair who felt liberated by it. That's an extreme example of perspective shift.
It really highlights the power of reframing. So apply it to habits. Exercise isn't a chore, it's building strength. Saving money isn't deprivation, it's building future freedom.
Meditation isn't about avoiding distractions, it's about practicing noticing them and returning focus. Even pre-performance nerves can be reframed as excitement.
Yes. And then there's the idea of creating a motivation ritual.
Like associating a specific action with the state you want to be in.
Kind of like conditioning. He mentions Ed Lattimore putting on headphones to trigger focus, even without music.
Or my old baseball pregame routine. It wasn't just physical. It was about getting into the right mental zone. You create a cue for the desired state.
Clear even suggests a simple happiness ritual. Just take a couple of deep breaths and smile right before you do something you enjoy. Associate the feeling.
So the core idea is change your predictions about a habit by changing your associations and perspective. Make the bad stuff seem less appealing and the good stuff more appealing.
Precisely. Make it unattractive. It's the flip side of making it attractive. And Clear ties it back, saying these inversions make it invisible from Law 1, make it unattractive from Law 2, or your first lines of defense against bad habits.
That wraps it up nicely. So looking back at these 3 chapters, it really feels like understanding this attractiveness piece, both making good habits attractive and bad habits unattractive, is fundamental. It's about managing our desires and association.
Absolutely. Which leads to a good thought to leave people with. Maybe consider one habit you want to change right now.
Yeah.
How could you actively work on making it seem less attractive? Or if it's a good habit you want to build, how could you deliberately make it more appealing? Maybe using temptation bundling or reframing, starting literally today.
That's a great challenge. Food for thought. And looking ahead, our next deep dive will tackle the 3rd law, make it easy.
Ah, another crucial piece. How simplifying things makes habits stick.
Exactly. Loads of practical stuff there, too. So definitely stay tuned for that one. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive today.